Hello, good evening. This is UTV Live.
Tonight at 6, the family of an RUC officer killed in the Chinook helicopter disaster has spoken out for the first time in an appeal for answers.
What could possibly be in those documents that can't be useful to help prevent this again, that can't be helpful for all of these families to be able to lay the memory of their loved ones to rest?
Also ahead, his identity has always been protected, but now MPs urge the government to name the army agent known as Steak Knife.
Will Boucher Road playing fields return to their sporting roots? Tonight, Belfast City Council will decide the future of live events at the outdoor venue.
Plus, we'll have the rest of the day's news, weather and sport, including a County Fermanagh caravan park owner who has spent hundreds of thousands of pounds preparing for the Enniskillen bypass, which he fears will never happen.
The wife and daughter of an RUC officer killed in the Chinook helicopter crash have spoken out for the first time in a plea for answers. Detective Chief Inspector Dennis Bunting was on board an RAF helicopter with other intelligence and military personnel when it crashed on a flight to Scotland in 1994.
His family has appeared in a special video due to be sent to every cabinet minister as part of a campaign for a judge-led public inquiry. His relatives have been speaking exclusively to our correspondent, Gareth Wilkinson.
I knew he didn't want to get on that flight. I knew he didn't want to get on it. To just see all that burned grass and, you know, the whole of the hillside was just a complete mess, and I still can't believe it.
For 31 years, Lynn Bunting has been living with the loss of her husband. She was plunged into grief when a Chinook helicopter came down over Scotland's Mull of Kintyre. RUC officer Dennis Bunting was one of 29 on board who stood no chance of survival.
Shannon, you just didn't really get the chance to know your father properly. You were only 4 when he...
Yeah, it's been like a huge gap for sure. You know, although we've kept his memory alive, I'm devastated that I didn't get to know him, that I didn't know him as an adult, that I don't have him here.
It's a grief compounded by a lack of answers. 2 Special Forces pilots, first blamed for the disaster, later had their names cleared. Now it's emerged there were serious safety concerns surrounding the Chinook helicopter used, but files relating to the crash have been sealed for 100 years.
What could possibly be in those documents that can't be useful to help prevent this again, that can't be helpful for all of these families to be able to lay the memory of their loved ones to rest?
Families demanding a judge-led public inquiry have been to Downing Street and recently met with ministers from the Ministry of Defence. Now Lynn and another daughter, Erin, appear in a specially produced Valentine's video.
I was attracted to his larger-than-life personality.
But it's a story of heartbreak, which will be sent to every cabinet minister.
You've both chosen to speak out publicly for the first time. Is this a plea for answers?
Yes. Absolutely. We want, you know, that's the memory of my dad, Dennis, and of all of his colleagues, that they are people who would want their families to be given these answers. I think it's desperately sad that we're being forced, you know, for 30 years to say, why do we not know what has happened?
In a statement, the MOD says its focus is on responding to claims made by the Chinook Justice Campaign, but say they understand that the lack of certainty about the cause of the crash has added to the distress of families. Dennis Bunting was one of 10 police officers from Northern Ireland killed. It was the RUC's single biggest loss of life.
For him to die in those situations when I thought he was going to be lucky enough to get to peace, and he didn't make it, and it wasn't the troubles that killed him.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
Lynn Bunting ending that report by our correspondent Gareth Wilkinson. The government is under new pressure tonight to name the Army spy codenamed Steak Knife after a group of influential MPs was called upon to do so. The Northern Ireland Affairs Committee said formal identification of the mole will send out a message to all agents that they'll not receive the protection offered to Freddie Scappaticci.
The Chief Constable John Boucher has repeated his view. The policy of not naming agents must not be used in legacy cases here to cover up acts of wrongdoing. Here's our crime and security correspondent Sharon O'Neill.
I am Freddie Scappaticci. I'm sitting here today with my solicitor. I'm telling you, I'm not guilty of any of these allegations.
A lot has happened since this infamous denial more than 2 decades ago. Freddie Scappaticci, the Army agent codenamed Steak Knife, is now dead. The Republicans' role in IRA abductions and murders and how he was protected at all costs by the intelligence services, all now on the record. But the high-level Canova investigation stopped short of naming the spy because of the government's policy of not identifying agents, neither confirm nor deny. NCND.
I have significant concerns that the enduring influence of MI5 on legacy matters and its approach to NCND will undermine the trust and confidence of families.
Now the state is under fresh pressure to do so after MPs made it clear they believe he should formally be named. That coming after hearing from those involved in Canova. The Northern Ireland Affairs Committee accepted that it's not normal practice to name agents of the state, but in this one instance, it is appropriate, proportionate and strongly in the public interest for the government to name the agent known as Steak Knife. We have been reassured that naming Steak Knife would not put any active agents at risk, discourage existing agents from continuing their work, or deter the recruitment of new agents.
It has a huge impact on the families that Steak Knife murdered, also agents' families. So we need this to be in the public domain. We also need it for faith and confidence in a system that is meant to protect people.
Look at the pressure Keir Starmer is under at the moment, and he does not need this added pressure. I think he may decide to release this name to take away the pressure that has been building for many years.
The Northern Ireland Affairs Committee says by naming Steak Knife, the message would be twofold and would help to build trust and confidence in the agencies of the state among all communities. A discreet decision to name in this instance would also indicate to agents guilty of conduct beyond acceptable limits that they will not be protected or shielded from the consequences of their actions.
Hopefully it will make them feel more accountable and not go off in a roguelike manner like Steak Knife did.
Canova's top team, including John Boucher, who is the chief constable, had repeatedly tried and failed to get the state to allow them to name Steak Knife. This was a huge source of disappointment for the families. The government says it is not yet in a position to respond formally to a request to name the top IRA mole. 2 reasons for that: ongoing litigation and the consideration of possible implications to a recent court ruling. The big question is, does this latest intervention hold any sway at all?
It'll make a difference legally, politically and indeed morally. It isolates the Secretary of State and the British government because you already have, of course, the Chief Constable endorsing the need for a complete change on NCND. It's far too rigid. A shutdown on intelligence right across the board is just not appropriate anymore.
So, what next? The Secretary of State will update Parliament. The Steak Knife saga, clearly not over yet. Sharon O'Neill, UTV Live.
Belfast councillors will vote this evening on the future of large music events at Boucher Road playing fields.
The decision could see the space used solely for sporting activities.
Well, let's cross live now to the City Hall in Belfast, where our reporter Paul Riley joins us. So, Paul, why is this all being debated?
Well, Rose, this is a matter that was agreed at committee stage. It's now going to be debated at full council. That meeting got underway about 10 minutes ago in the chamber above me. It's a pretty packed agenda tonight, but we've been looking at this proposal to end large-scale events at the Boucher Road playing fields in Belfast. Here is my report. Down the years, these Belfast fields have echoed to the sounds of some of the biggest names in music, from Bruce Springsteen to Ed Sheeran. But the Boucher Road site could be returning to its previous purpose, sports pitches. While there would be no change until 2028, that decision could leave the city without an outdoor venue of a similar scale.
Well, the Boucher Road playing fields, it's not a pretty location and a pretty site, but it holds 40,000 people. So it allows us to put on events at scale, at huge scale. So Bruce Springsteen, you're part of his world tour. Fontaines DC, last night of their world tour. And Belfast is a part of it. And all of a sudden, we're no longer going to be a part of it. We can no longer stage Vital or Emerge with the same number of people, with the same number of people flying in from around the world.
Peter Aitken of Aitken Promotions, which is behind bringing those A-list performers to Belfast, described the move as the end of an era. In a statement he said, while the news is disappointing, it highlights the ongoing need for a suitable large-scale venue in Belfast. People living close to the site have complained about the disruption to the area over the years, not to mention some of the traffic gridlock created close to the M1. Sinn Féin says returning the playing fields to community use would address the shortfall in outdoor sports facilities, with plans for 2 GAA pitches and a football pitch. But the Alliance Party wants councillors to delay implementing those proposals until an alternative music venue is found.
To close your biggest event space without doing that forward planning, without having an alternative, in my view, is incredibly short-sighted. Everyone here is in agreement that Boucher Road playing fields should be returned to use of the playing fields to increase our sport provision in the city. But to do that, we also need to provide the event space in the city that we have become so accustomed to.
There were mixed feelings in Belfast city centre this afternoon.
I don't think it's a good idea, to be honest, because where else is it going to be? You know, they're going to have to make room elsewhere for it, so I don't know.
Good capacity for concerts and all in Boucher playing fields, you know, so if it's another place there won't be as many people there and maybe the atmosphere won't be as good or something like that, you know. So
I think, to be honest with you, it should be split between us. You know, I mean, you can do both. You absolutely can do both, because any time that any of the venues was there, they tidied up after themselves and the pitches became pitches again.
So the question here is, will other parties row in behind that alliance amendment which would defer any change? As I said, it's a pretty packed agenda here at Belfast City Hall tonight. Councillors are also going to attempt to set a rate. They will discuss whether the council will continue to use the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, and Senator George Mitchell is expected to be raised during this council meeting. Some parties are calling for his freedom of the city to be revoked because of his alleged links to Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, Senator Mitchell has denied any wrongdoing and has said he regrets any contact he had with Jeffrey Epstein. So a busy night here at City Hall.
Paul Riley, thank you very much.
The Presbyterian Church in Ireland says it has called a second special assembly in what it says will be a meeting to address some pressing matters which have arisen as a consequence of its safeguarding failures. A special assembly was held before Christmas after safeguarding failures were identified. The next assembly will take place on Wednesday, the 18th of February.
The Ulster Scots Commissioner Lee Reynolds and the Irish Language Commissioner Paul Deeds have met the First and Deputy First Ministers at Stormont. The meeting was the first since the Commissioners formally took up their roles by the Ministers last October. The Commissioner posts were agreed as part of the New Decade New Approach deal, which led to the restoration of Stormont in 2020.
County Fermanagh caravan park owner says that he fears the A4 Enniskillen bypass will never happen and the ongoing delays are bad for business. Mark Fawcett has spent around £200,000 preparing for the road to be built. Construction was due to start last June.
Over £6 million earmarked for the scheme has now been reallocated by Stormont's Finance Minister, who insists the funding isn't lost. Sarah O'Kane reports.
The problem with at the moment is we'd like to get this all tarred and get it all finished, but because we have this major construction project ahead of us on heavy construction traffic, there's no point doing anything.
Mark Fawcett says his business is in limbo, waiting for the bypass. Construction of the £36 million project was meant to start last June. On Friday, the Department of Finance revealed that £6.6 million of the money set aside for the upgrade would now be spent elsewhere.
We have been vested for a number of years now, and now we're in the process of preparing for the new bypass, and we have spent quite a lot of money, a region of 200,000, between buying some machinery to do the project and putting stones down to be ready for the contractors to come on site. It's absolutely terrible that we would be sort of hung out to dry basically on this project. The first engineers arrived here in 2006.
On this site?
On this site, doing site holds preparation. Thousands of hours has been put in doing surveys, and for nothing.
The 2-kilometre carriageway would provide a new transport link to the southern side of the town, improving connection. The road will cut right through Mark's land here on the Derry Lynn Road, but the ongoing legal challenge to a decision not to allow the A5 to go ahead because of climate change targets means projects like this one have stalled and more delays for Mark.
I'm very disillusioned. I think this climate change thing, it's a load of piffle. We have a 2-kilometre road to build, 2.4 kilometres, and this is going to affect it. The government has vested our land. We're sitting in limbo now. My fear is that this project will just go on and on and on.
In a statement, a spokesperson for the Department of Finance said claims that the Finance Minister has withdrawn funding are inaccurate and misleading. If a department cannot spend funding within the designated year, it is returned for reallocation. This does not mean funding is lost. The Infrastructure Minister Liz Kimmins faced questions about the bypass at Stormont today.
Let me be categorically clear right now. There is no detriment or risk to the Enniskillen bypass. I am determined to see that delivered, but I have to be responsible as the Minister, and it's certainly my focus that we get to the other side of this appeal and that we get on with the work.
Hopefully we'd see the Minister here in the next 12 weeks with our little spade, digging the first sod for the Enniskillen Southern Bypass.
Sarah O'Kane, UTV Live, Enniskillen.
Well, still to come on the programme, after a disappointing start to the Six Nations, can Ireland bounce back ahead of their Italy match at the weekend?
And we have some changeable conditions on the way this week: rain, sleet, snow and sunshine. I'll have all of the details coming up shortly.
But first, let's take a look at the headlines making tonight's ITV News at 6:30.
Here's Lucrezia Millarini.
Coming up on the ITV Evening News, pressure grows on the Prime Minister with the latest departures from his top team. As his future hangs in the balance, the Scottish Labour leader urges Keir Starmer to step down. Also, the police assess claims that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor passed confidential government reports to Jeffrey Epstein. In their first public statement on the scandal, William and Kate say they are deeply concerned. And the retired coal miner who's helping keep his industry's history alive at the age of 94. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
There was plenty going on sport-wise at the weekend.
And here's Ruth with the roundup.
Ready for the road. John Mulholland Motors proudly sponsors UTV Sports updates.
Good evening. Ulster's Bryn Ward has been called back into the Ireland squad ahead of this week's Six Nations game against Italy in Dublin. Ward had been training with the senior squad in Portugal before returning to play in the Ireland A game against an England A side that defeated them 52-14 at Thomond Park on Friday night. Meanwhile, Tadhg Furlong is back to full training after missing the French game in Paris. The first round of the Six Nations didn't disappoint, and with Italy defeating Scotland before coming to Dublin this weekend, there are plenty of talking points.
The panic button has been pressed by a few on the outside after Ireland's disappointing defeat to France on the opening night of this year's Six Nations Championship. But one former player believes it's not all doom and gloom yet for Andy Farrell's side.
Not the Ireland team of old. Certainly don't have that fear factor anymore that they could play anyone in the world, and you're thinking Ireland will probably win here. So there's been a lot of change the last couple of years. It's a tough fixture. It's probably the toughest fixture. France away, maybe closely followed by England away at Twickenham, which unfortunately, as we know, are Ireland's 2 away games. This Six Nations, now they'll take a little bit of comfort that they have the 3 home games at the Aviva.
Gilroy believes Farrell has a tough job ahead, but is the right man for the job.
You can see that the players want to play with him. I never had Andy Farrell as a head coach, but he was in the coaching setup when I was at Ireland, and he does have an aura about him, and the players immensely respect him, and you do want to play for him. Those guys would throw themselves in front of a train for him, and not every head coach has that effect on their players.
Gilroy believes the loss of Johnny Sexton to this side as a player can't be overstated.
He's a one-off. He's 1 in a million. He is one of the best rugby players on the planet. You can't just recruit someone to fill that role. He's a generational talent. He was a competitor. Having him in the team, knowing he was in your team, filled you full of confidence. He had the ability to make a game flow. You know, your out half is just so fundamental in a game of rugby.
Gilroy was part of the squad that lost to Italy in the Six Nations for the first and only time in 2013. That turned out to be head coach Declan Kidney's last game in charge.
It was tough. It was tough. It was just a lot of, you could feel a lot of heads shaking. You lost to Italy away in the Six Nations, the Ireland team. It just unheard of. So it was tough. But yes, Italy have come a long way since then. If Italy win on Saturday against Ireland in Dublin, there's going to be, I think then you can really start to worry.
Let's hope for a big comeback on Saturday in the Aviva. Now, the Macquarie Cup will go to a replay after yesterday's final ended in a draw between Abbey CBS and St Patrick's Dungannon. St Patrick's went ahead with an early goal from Owen Long and led by 9 points at half-time. But the Abbey turned the tide in the second half, and Daniel Carr got the all-important injury time equaliser to send the game to a replay. That decider will be played this Friday. Rangers will host Celtic at Ibrox in the quarter-finals of the Scottish Cup over the first weekend in March. Martin O'Neill's Celtic needed extra time to book their place. They were down 1-0 for most of the second half before debutant Junior Adamu grabbed the equaliser in injury time, and Seb Nikti scored in extra time to send the Hoops through.
Naturally delighted that we're through and that we're in the hat for the next round. That was great, but the team, I thought they showed. I use the word resilience. Maybe that's not the correct word. It's a drive and a determination to eke out an equaliser when all seemed lost. And it was great to win in the manner in which we did.
What a comeback. And in ice hockey, there was a comeback for Elite League leaders, the Belfast Giants. They came from 4 goals down last night to seal a stunning 5-4 overtime win on the road against Coventry Blaze to secure a vital 2 points for Adam Keefe's side. And finally, Championship side Limavady United pulled off the biggest upset in the Irish Cup over the weekend with a 1-0 win over Linfield. They'll now face Coleraine in the quarter-finals. That is all your sport this Monday. Bye for now.
Ready for the road. John Mulholland Motors proudly sponsors UTV Sports Updates.
Weather time now.
And it wasn't too bad at the weekend, Louise. At least most people were able to get out for a bit of a walk on Sunday.
Absolutely. It's been so wet recently that we definitely deserve some drier conditions at the weekend. At Alton Hinch Filters in County Antrim, they've actually just had 34 days of consecutive rainfall. Stormont Castle and Catesbridge not too far behind with 30 days of continuous rain. And that has led to Northern Ireland setting a new February daily record rainfall total, and that was 140 millimetres of rainfall. That's just under half a foot of rain in a 24-hour period, and that fell at Tracy Slieve Naman in County Down, close to the Mourne Mountains. We do have some changeable weather conditions this week. We have a real mix of everything. We've got sunshine at times, we've got sleet, snow and some heavy showers. But on a more positive note, if you look when you're out and about, there are signs of spring slowly starting to emerge. Daffodils, shoots, snowdrops, crocuses. We're also gaining an extra 4 minutes more daylight a day as we head towards the end of the month. So there's always something positive to be had despite the forecast this week. And here's the latest.
Whatever the weather, there's a warm outlook. UTV weather, sponsored by the Grant Arona R290 heat pump.
So further unsettled weather on the way this week. Plenty of rain in the forecast, grey skies as we get towards the middle part of the week. It will start to feel noticeably cooler if you're heading out, with the chance of some sleet and snow Thursday night into Friday, most likely though over higher ground, falling as hill sleet and hill snow. Low pressure continues to dominate. We have that blocking high across Scandinavia, preventing those systems from clearing through. So further outbreaks of rain continuing over the next few days, holding on to cloudy skies as well. Tonight, showers will continue to push northwards overnight. Once they start to clear through, we have quite a lot of low cloud mist, extensive hill fog developing through the early hours. The winds will stay light and temperatures under all of the cloud cover will hold up, staying on the mild side, lows of around 6 degrees Celsius. A few showers across eastern areas to start tomorrow morning, but for most places it's largely dry, albeit rather cloudy and murky. Then we have this area of rain pushing in from the southwest as we head into the afternoon. The winds inland from a southeasterly direction stay quite light, picking up across the east coast with highs of around 8 or 9 degrees Celsius, so a few degrees above average for this time of year. Across the rest of Ireland, rain will clear through during the morning, turning to brighter, drier conditions into the afternoon with freshening winds along the coast, lighter winds inland with highs of 12 or 13 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead, as we get towards Thursday, the showers will continue, but falling as sleet or snow over the tops of the hills into Friday. We could even see a few accumulations of wet snow to lower levels on Friday, but it's not likely that it will lie. And then as we head into the weekend, we have some sunshine. It has been a while. That's very latest. Bye-bye.
UTV weather, sponsored by the Grant Arona R290 heat pump.
Well, the time now is 27 minutes past 6, and it means that that's just about all we have time for this Monday, the 9th of February. Paul will be back with the late news at 10:30.
The ITV News is next with Lucrezia Milarini. From Rose, from me and the rest of the Tea Time team on UTV Live. Good evening.
Good evening.